Hello, beloved soul. Are you a wisdom keeper or a wisdom seeker? Wisdom seekers are on a soul mission to teach and share their unique gifts in their own authentic voice, while wisdom seekers are on a mission to receive from visionaries and need a place to find these teachers. Truthfully, wisdom keepers and wisdom seekers alike need a place to build community, connect, and grow. You're invited to enter into our sacred social network at Meraki Tribe Collective, an evolutionary shift in online platforms. Meraki is an intentionally curated online space for conscious community to connect, collaborate, and co-create, featuring a mindful marketplace and private social platform where wisdom seekers can find and wisdom keepers are found. Meraki platform is no-brainer affordable and offers simple-to-use tools that require minimal technical skills and maximum opportunities for connection and transformation. Check out the links in the show notes and be sure to mention you heard about us on In the Woo World. Let's talk about self-care. I have to share a couple of my favorite daily life hacks. That's brain tapping and Inharmony vibroacoustic technology. This technology has been an absolute game changer for me. These devices have proven to reduce stress, improves clarity and sleep, and I experience more energy and I feel rejuvenated. Brain Tap is a headset that adds a whole new dimension with restorative powered light therapy. Brain Tap sends gentle light pulses that travel through the ear meridians and the retina, which sends signals to the brain. The headset guides you into an amazing meditative state in alpha, theta, or delta. Use BrainTap technology alone or with the Inharmony vibroacoustic meditation cushion or lounger. Connect with yourself and release stress while you optimize your overall well-being. Click the links in the show notes for great deals and more information. Welcome to In the Woo World, where we explore all things woo-woo, taboo, and real cool. I am your host, Wendy Woo. I'm a former dance junkie turned certified intuitive life coach. I have this ability to peer into the Akashic field where I receive and share insights on soul stories and hidden truths beyond our time. This podcast is for you, beloved soul, the one who experiences deja vu, divine timing, with a deep sense of knowing that your soul is eternal. This isn't New Age, it's the Golden Age, where you receive ancient wisdom and profound teachings and apply them to your life in the here and now. Welcome home. I saw this really beautiful quote online and I wanted to share it with you today, as well as the transmission that came afterwards. But this quote today, it's by Anais Nin, and Anais Nin, and I hope that I said the name right. But this is what the quote says. What surprises me the most about humankind is that we get bored with our childhood, rush to grow up, and then we long to be children again. That we lose our health to make money, and then lose our money to restore our health. That by thinking anxiously about the future, we forget the present, such that we live in neither the present nor the future. That we live as if we'll never die, and die as though we've never lived. The transmission that came to follow was this. It is said that children inherit the kingdom of heaven because children live in wonder, imagination, and exploration. There's a magic in this freedom, as when you watch a child play, they are truly in a state of beautiful presence. In their flow state, there is no yesterday or burden of tomorrow's responsibility. Truly living in this realm of heaven is here and now, absolute presence. But as adults, we have forgotten. Most adults live in the shadows of childhood, afraid of what's to come, in the dark, distracted by illusions of what is perceived to really matter when it doesn't. Throwing temper tantrums when things don't go their way. As adults, we have forgotten to wander in exploration and envision what is possible, because the adults before us made it clear to set parameters called impossibility, shutting down our innate childlike wonder with limiting beliefs. I'm here to remind you to choose your childhood memory wisely. Choose the memory that truly uplifts, and leverage the most magical moments to use to your advantage. So that was the transmission that I received, and then it got me to, contemplate a little bit more. And so one thing that I realize is that all we have is the now moment. And we just go from moment to moment to moment. But how much of our time is spent really and truly dwelling on our past, dwelling on our negative childhood experiences, as well as blaming our parents for a lot of our childhood mishaps? Now, I'm sure that many people do have a great deal of validity to feeling as though they have been wronged in their childhood. Perhaps you really are a victim. But isn't that what the whole entire walk of faith is all about, is to overcome such atrocities? I mean, this is where you get to stand in the driver's seat and choose how you're going to navigate your future. Because taking the things from the past and putting it in your lap as all this baggage, and it's all piled up in your lap, and you're behind the driver's seat and you're trying to steer, and you can't see because of all the blockages and the obstacles from your past. There are people that will concentrate more on their past, and it affects their here and now. And then we have other people, another set of people, who just continually worry and are anxious about their future. So much that they have, physical issues that show up in their bodies. And this also happens with dwelling on your past experiences as well. This is one thing that I really learned about in my intuitive medical class. So there's things that we just don't deal with, and sometimes we have unresolved finished business. And our triggers are our triggers alone. When you can actually turn around, and even if it was somebody else's fault, to where you think it's their fault, and you shift and you change the perspective of all these experiences, and you don't allow yourself to get caught up and give your power away over to the circumstances, that you claim it back and you bring it in, this is where you have the authority. And it does take practice. It really takes a moment by moment in the now moment to catch yourself, to see where you're allowing these energy leaks to go. Because it's in the energy leak where you lose your energy. And it's in the energy leak where there is a sore or a wound to allow it to fester and get infected on a spiritual, energetic level. And then over a period of time, it does manifest as an illness in the body. So it's so important that anyone who has embarked on a type of a spiritual journey, regardless if you have deconstructed your religion and you refound your faith, or you are a Christian, but let's say you're a Christian and you don't allow yourself to question God. There, right there is another level of toxicity. And I might shock some people by saying that it's toxic, but it is. I was very affected by taking what is known as the Word of God very literal, that I stopped questioning, and I was too scared to question. And then I was too scared to live in a state of presence of childlike wonder. What am I going to wonder about? How can I use my imagination? Oh, what do you mean I'm not supposed to take a piece of cardboard and cut out pictures from a magazine and create a vision board? That's satanic? That is? Really? That right there is an example of how authority figures or adults intervene and they try to feed you a lie, because it's in the visualization and the imagination with a lot of play and wonder, with love and excitement, that you can create and manifest beautiful things in your life. And with that imagination and putting forth that image, you're setting up yourself for manifesting it, because it's enjoyable. For those who know that you've got to pick up your cross and go, what does that mean to you? Pick up your cross and suffer, or pick up your cross and overcome? Pick up your own cross and be responsible for that cross. See? There's many different ways to look at that. And I, for one, have been shown that it's my responsibility, because what is done is done. So it's my responsibility. If I want an action, if I want something to be brought forth, I can play in my imagination. I can sketch that down. I can write it down. And I can be so excited about it and pray about it, which I'm going to tell you right now, the term prayer in Aramaic, in the Aramaic language, I think it's slotha. I'll make sure that, I'm pretty sure it's slotha, but it means to set a trap. You are setting a trap for the mind of God to manifest something in the material world, to manifest it for the higher, greater good of all. And that's what prayer is for. I believe people forget that they are divining when they're praying. And it's in that divineness, of that communication, of getting in and working within the field and the mind of God to petition and bring forward something that's so much needed. So what I'd like to do is just share a few techniques on how is it that we can be present. How is it that you can really engage with this presence? And whenever you do engage with setting an intention to be present, you are in fact connecting and really practicing expanding your consciousness, expanding your awareness into what I call enlightenment, or what some people also call the consciousness of Christ. Okay, this isn't religious. This is just a state of being. Just like I said, faith is also a state of being. Okay, so when you come into this presence, one thing you can do is focus on your breath. So here are some practical things that you can do. Focus on your breath. The moment you start focusing and paying attention to your breath is when you come into a present state. You can play with your breath. You can breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and let it all out for 6 to 8 counts, right? So that's a very simple box breathing. That is probably one of the easiest things that you could do, okay? Start there. So start with the box breathing, okay? Now, I did say something about prayer, which is fine, but with prayer, you also need to get to a state of receiving answers, and that comes with meditation. So in order for you to receive what you are asking for in prayer, what you're divining for in prayer, you must be able to sit in quietness and observe your thoughts that could be racing. Your thoughts could be racing, but really stepping back and quiet the mind. Observe your thoughts. If you see that that your thoughts are racing, I like to start to focus on a point in the middle of my head. I actually kind of lift my eyes up and I want to look as though I'm looking at a pinpoint in the middle of my head. And I work on my breathing. And so I breathe in and I hold for 4 counts and I let it out. And as I let it out, I imagine that I have roots growing from my legs and my hips into the ground. I literally feel as though I am a tree. I am like the tree of life. And this tree of life is now lit up. It's going. It's going into the mind of God to receive the answers during my meditation. Also, really getting disciplined in social media. Or should I say, anything that's distracting. If you find yourself scrolling a lot and not getting anything done, you've lost the present moment. You've lost out on a great deal of precious time that you could be productive. And instead, it's scroll, scroll, scroll. So probably one of the best things you can do in order to combat the scrolling is to set a timer for yourself, just like you would with your kids. If you set timers for your kids and they are allowed screen time or television time within a certain period of time throughout the day, you can do that yourself. Another thing that being present can do is it can actually improve your health, your immune system. Because what you can do is you can get into a practice of doing a body scan. What I mean is energetically tune in from your feet or your head, whichever one you want to work on. I like to start at my feet, and I like to work my way up through my feet, my ankles, my calves, my knees, thighs, hips, stomach, chest, arms, shoulders, neck, eyes, head, and all the way up through the top. And I then come right back down, another body scan in the opposite direction. And I pay attention to any of the sensations that I feel. Am I clenching my mouth? Am I clenching my gut? Am I finding that I might have a sore throat and I didn't know it? When you can work on doing a body scan every day, your body speaks to you, and it speaks to us in the form of illness. And so the more you can be present, even within your body, by exercise, yoga, meditation, these are when you will feel and tune into your body to see if there's anything that your physical body is actually trying to tell you. Another thing about being present is really doing a great attitude check. I feel like it's really, really easy to just complain. Really and truly, look at how many people complain. That's probably one of the easiest things that we can do is complain. And it's a little bit harder to get into the attitude of wonderful gratitude. But having gratitude actually elevates your mood. It elevates your consciousness too, because then you can go around and just being grateful for everything, even grateful for the mess of the dirty dishes that are in your sink in your kitchen. Because guess what? You have a mess, you have a home, you have something that you are responsible for that you've actually earned to have and to create a beautiful living in. You earned that. Yeah, you earned that mess, right? Well, in that responsibility, there's a great deal of gratitude because look at the abundance that you have in your life. And I know that probably sounds so crazy, but it isn't. This is when, before you start complaining about how no one helps you around the house, how you have this mess and you can't resolve it, this is when you get to be present and figure it out. It's not always that easy. Easier said than done. And or however, this is when you do get in the attitude of gratitude. Some people like to write things down. So this is a really fun tip. So there's something called the 369 manifestation. A gratitude journal, you can just write down 3 things in the morning on what you are grateful for. And then you repeat that 6 times later in the afternoon. And then you repeat it again 9 times later in the afternoon in your gratitude journal. It's a gratitude journal or something that maybe you want to actually manifest in your life. But we do things through manifestation, through being present enough to notice that this is what you want in your life. But also remember, if there's something that you need and that you want to really establish and get in your life, sometimes there are bad habits that need to fall away. And so if you start writing out the things that you really want, 3, 6, 9 times a day, and you want to manifest that, well, guess what? Don't be surprised if there's some falling away or chipping away at certain habits that don't actually live up to the same vibration as that thing that you want to manifest. Okay? So if you want to manifest, let's say, a new car, all right? And you want to manifest this new car, oh gosh, does that mean that you might have to create a new attitude that matches the amount of money you receive? Maybe you are going to be responsible for festering up. I can't say if it's fester, but mustering up. Here we go. You're going to muster up the confidence to go ask your boss for a raise. Or perhaps there's a side hustle you could do. You see, there's things that will align itself that will help you get that new car. But what happens if you lose your job? Oh my God, I lost my job and I wanted to manifest this new car. Well, instead of being upset about the lost job, this is now your opportunity to find or be open to receive a better job that's going to set you up in order to manifest that new car. You see what I'm saying? Also, in with manifesting a new car, not just that, but hey, you get a brand new job, perhaps you're making more money and not having to spend as much time in the office because you come with a great deal of skill that has you really, in the driver's seat, so to speak. Now, being present, it is kind of like a game. This is something that is practiced, okay? And you have to be very gracious with yourself, okay? Just because you practice mindfulness and wanting to be present at all times, it doesn't equate to being present at all times. You are human. You have emotions, and a lot of times if you are around other people, and if you're an empath and you pick up other people's energy, this is a really good time to do a little tap-in test to make sure that what you're being present in is your energy. What is your energy and what is not your energy? Here's something that you can, think of. I don't like going shopping, okay? I don't like the crowds, that kind of thing. I actually put on headphones when I go shopping so I can listen and listen to the music that I choose to, because I don't always trust the music that's being played in a store. I know that sounds crazy, but that's another podcast. But I used to really suffer when I went shopping or I went to large crowds because I was picking up on other people's energies and I was mistaking it as my own. And so sometimes I would feel a little disoriented, kind of like busy. My mind would race a little bit more. And it was just very odd. So when you need to go shopping or need to go to a place that has a great deal of people, this is where you can ground yourself. So remember earlier in the podcast, I said take a few deep breaths and imagine you have roots growing into the ground. This is when you do that. You do that before you step into a high traffic area full of people. And before you go into a highly crowded place, imagine that you are encompassed with a golden sphere of light or a white pyramid of light all around you. And this is your protection. And it acts as a filter. So it's filtering in only the necessary energies that you need. And so you can even state this before going into a crowded area. Imagine that you're grounded. Imagine the sphere of protection all around you, and that you are only allowing beneficial energies to enter in through your bubble. Okay, so it's Only those energies are coming in through your bubble, and all the rest are kind of like sliding off around the bubble, and then they're just going into the ground being filtered. Okay. Hopefully you can think of that and envision that. Living a healthy life is all about choices, from the food we eat, the drinks we sip, as well as the skincare and cleaning products we use. Personally, I'm very sensitive to cleaning products, candles, perfumes, and air fresheners. Many brand names affect me negatively. Sneezing, coughing, watery eyes, and I feel my throat is closing up. Luckily, I was introduced to Young Living Essential Oils, an amazing lifestyle brand offering non-toxic products beyond essential oils, from cleaning, skincare products, cosmetics, and supplements. Young Living is the world leader in essential oils, embodying seed-to-seal standards for conservation, regenerative agriculture, distillation, and testing. Click the link in the show notes and experience non-toxic products today with Young Living Essential Oils. Now let's go on to how is it that you can be present at work. So hopefully you do work in an atmosphere to where they do allow you to have breaks. I suggest that taking breaks, like actually going outside, leaving the building, you can kick your shoes off and plant your feet into some grass and really think again about pulling in the beautiful energy from the ground. And now all of a sudden I'm being shown, hey, well, Wendy Woo, I don't do that. I live in a city. I have concrete out front with lots of cars. Well, then perhaps just try to seek out a different area to where you can just get in some nice breaths. It might be just standing outside, leaning up against the building and closing your eyes. And then actually, instead of not being able to withstand, or you just can't stand hearing the cars, you can use the cars as bringing you back to being in present moment. Because you can close your eyes and then listen for that. What sounds do you hear? And you can concentrate on that sound for a minute or two, working on your box breath and focusing on a specific sound. That is coming into a present moment. So you see, it doesn't have to be all incense and crystals and yoga mats and bell ringing. All right, because you are probably a normal 9-to-5 person and you have kids. Okay? Or you just don't have the time. But I know that you can carve out 5 minutes of your day in the morning and at night. There's nothing that says that you have to sit for 60 minutes in mindful practice meditation. There's nothing that says that. I understand that because we can live in a very chaotic world, but you don't have to be filled with chaos. Okay? You can live in a chaotic world, but don't allow yourself to knee-jerk and respond in chaos. One thing that was really interesting, I watched a movie last night with my husband, and from a very young age, this girl, she really just she was a latchkey kid. Remember the latchkey kids? That was really big back in when I was growing up. Around the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, after that, you got to ride home on the bus, and both your parents worked. And so you just cared for yourself. You were the latchkey kid. And sometimes this girl in this movie, she was a latchkey kid, and her parents worked constantly. But her neighbor helped take care of her and occupy her time. Yet when the young girl grew up to be a very successful woman, all she remembered was how much her parents weren't there. And they worked all the time, and they were incredibly proud of her. And so I think why I'm bringing this up is so that, parents, you might be the person who is working late, making really great money, sacrificing your time so that you are bringing in the money so that your daughter or son can do that after school activity that requires an investment of time and money. And so there's these sacrifices that come in. Okay? So a lot of times, and this is what I'm picking up now, is when we're coming home from our jobs, turn off your radio. While you're driving, turn off your radio. I think that's probably the best gift that I've ever allowed myself to do, was just to turn off the radio. And in that moment, I'm able to drive, be present, pay attention, for one, and not get carried away with what's being played on the radio, whether it's news or song, but I'm in the moment driving. It will allow you to come home, and that's your decompression, especially if you have young kids and you want to walk through the door and they are like, "Mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy," and they just want to hang all over you. So if you've prepared your place, your peaceful place before you step foot into your home, you've done it in the car. Do you see where you can carve out moments in your day to be present, even in times when perhaps it's really important for you to be present, especially with driving a car? And when you drive a car, isn't that the time you really need to be present, not distracted by the music? Think about that. Allow yourself the quiet time before you get home and step into the second shift of being a father or a mother after a long day's work at the office. So my point in that with the movie and this is that although the parents worked really hard and things seemed to be resolved, once the daughter got older, she actually shifted her perspective and saw things from her parents' point of view because she was older. And so she was able to change her perception. Okay, so she shifted her perspective and really saw things from her parents' eyes. And then that allowed her to shift her perception of her childhood and saw that she had a really good childhood. Although they weren't around a lot, she witnessed that if they could have been around, they would have been around. So what I'm saying is that in this hectic world that we are in, that demands a lot of things, it's a lot harder now than it used to be, that you gain control of your present moment. And you can get it by driving in your car. And even when you pull into your driveway, take in that moment of mindfulness by breathing and grounding yourself before you go into the house for that second shift. Then you'll be present to greet your family with a smile, to greet your kids. And then when I say be present, I'm talking, don't you dare bring in the worries of your work into your home, and take it out on your family. Okay? That's your stuff. That's your stuff. That's not their stuff. They benefit from your work, but they don't need to benefit from or not benefit from a begrudgingly tired parent. So, create a better habit for creating space and silence on your drive home. And then this way, it's prepared you for a little bit of time, okay? And I hope that helps. And also, I need to add to the silence when you're driving, because I see that a lot of people, when they're driving, people do suffer from road rage. If you're listening to the radio, you're listening to the news, and it's upsetting and it's heightening your state of emotional health, we will get triggered at other people who are driving next to us. probably the worst thing ever. I have a dear friend who knew of a friend who got so incredibly angry at another driver that he pulled him out of the car and beat him to where the man had a heart attack and he died. And so the man who did the beating, well, guess what? He got sentenced to jail. So I'm not sure of what really happened leading up to those moments, but I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't matter, because what happened was that the driver lost control and he stepped out of his present moment and he raged when it shouldn't have been. He raged when he shouldn't have done that. So when you take the present moment, when you turn off the distractions, you can control more of how you respond to things. I want to make this point too, because I do meditate every day and I sit in contemplation. I have a pool. I sit by it every day. And I was watching the droplets fall into the water one day. And it wasn't just, it went from looking at one droplet, and I just noticed how beautiful the drop was. The drop came, and then there was a response. There's a ripple response, a cosmic ripple response, just all the way out into the edge of the pool, right? And then my focus was drawn and my attention was drawn over to the other droplets. And it wasn't just one droplet, but two droplets. The two droplets, they both send out the equal amount of charge. What I noticed when the droplets fell in two separate places, that when the ripples went out and met each other, the ripples, instead of stopping at the edge of the ripples went through each other, a meld. And it kept going, meaning the ripple didn't lose its form. They went right through each other. So I would suggest, if you're having a hard time understanding that, to maybe find some water and try that experiment. But my point is this, is that we are energetic beings, and from our source being our heart, our mind, our attitude, our gratitude, what we resonate sends out a ripple. Our words, our gestures, even what we don't speak, still speaks. Basically, what we're speaking is a vibe. And my analogy with the water drops is just to show you that we pick up on other people's ripples. We pick up on a vibration, and it does affect us because we do have a subtle energy body that is innately set into place because we needed this during the times of when we were hunters and gatherers, and we needed to be able to protect ourselves. We still have these instincts. It's set within us. And so when we can come to presence, a state of being present, before we respond, we are sending out those ripples to other people. And it does start in the home. It starts with yourself. Now, I want to leave you today with some really interesting reading that I love to do. I've been studying a little bit about the gene keys, and the gene keys is a synthesis, and they use the 64 codons of the I Ching with your birth date and where you were born and the time you were born, as well as where the planets were at that time. And it all comes in together, and it's like this beautiful synthesis that you embody. We embody each of these codons of the 64 I Ching, but there's some that are more prevalent than others. And there is what they call the shadow, the gift, and the city. And each of us work through these layers. The shadow is basically our ego, what we basically need to work through. And then we move from the shadow into the gift, and from the gift into what is called the city. And there is a city called presence, and it's referred to as the sacred octave. And in the book, the Gene Key book, they speak about presence as this state of consciousness, but it has nothing to do really with an individual. It's represented by the notion of the breath of God or the Word of God. Presence is an underlying nature of being. And like our ordinary lives, it doesn't really matter how much you expand in your consciousness and you feel more enlightened. You still have to chop wood, carry wood when you're in the shadow. You still have to chop wood, carry wood when you're in your gift. And you still have to chop wood, carry wood in the city. So just because you go through some type of spiritual awakening, enlightenment, and practicing your Christ consciousness and being in these different states of presence, you still have to chop wood and carry it. There's nothing that's going to change about the activities that you have to do throughout the day as a human. But what can change is how you feel and interact and respond to how you chop wood and carry it, because it's all in your state of being. And so when we can be present and practice presence anywhere at any time. And when we do that, we know that we can be stepping into our higher states of being, of gifts, and really be present in the city. And with that, we can be greater humans in the environments that we share with others. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast today. If you're interested in reading more about Gene Keys, you can get the book Gene Keys: Unlocking the Higher Purpose Hidden in Your DNA by Richard Rudd. And if you want to learn a little bit more about your Gene Keys, I highly recommend one of my dearest friends, Lois Duncan. She is a Gene Key guide, and she's absolutely wonderful. And if you are interested in having an Akashic Record reading or any life coaching or guided meditation to help you connect to your presence, please reach out to me. My information is also listed in the show notes. And until next time, may you be blessed and pass every test. Thank you for tuning in today. I am your host, Wendy Wu. If you're interested in receiving an Akashic Record session with me, please reach out to me. All links are in the show notes. I hope you received great value and insight from this podcast on In the Wu World. I do appreciate your time and support. In order for me to continue to create more content like this, and if you're being led to do so, you can support me by sharing this podcast with other like-minded people, family, and friends. Also, I do accept donations. Click the listener support link in the show notes so I can continue to do my research and bring forth the intuitive content you crave to know more about, or book a session with me. Let's support each other through this beautiful exchange in energy philanthropy.